everyone, it's Blake, and we're back here for episode number 17 of our WWE 2021 save in TEW 2020, and this is SmackDown here as we are in week 2 of July 2021. And for SmackDown, it is the Road to Great American Bash, which will take place in a couple weeks, so not far off for SmackDown. Of course, we've already got some matches set, and by the end of this episode of SmackDown, we will have our main event set for Great American Bash. But let's jump right in. Pre-show, we have Naomi getting the win over Eva Marie. Gets a 36, not really anything of note here. We have had a pretty active SmackDown women's division to this point. We've talked about that on previous episodes, comparing the SmackDown women's division to Raw's. A lot more, I think, women for us to be able to use in the division on SmackDown because of the injuries and pregnancies and such we've had on Raw. But for now, we're just trying to get these ladies some work, and Naomi gets the win over Eva Marie. Naomi hasn't had a strong start in terms of wins and losses, but she gets the win here. So just another women's match, which we have a lot of on SmackDown. We don't get to have as many on Raw because we don't have the numbers, but that will change soon. So Naomi gets the win here in pre-show action. Another pre-show match. It is Elias and Dio Madden getting a win over Otis and Titus O'Neil. 47 here. This is, as you can probably tell, one of those just to be able to get these four guys some work in. Not really a whole lot going on for any of them right now, but it is Elias and Dio Madden getting the win here in a pre-show bout. Not really a whole lot other than that to discuss with these four right now. But we are going to start the main episode of SmackDown with a big angle, and let's see if our Mr. 100 can even come close to delivering another one. Well, he can't this time, a 92, but we will take it. It appears that Mick Foley performed poorly, but we still get a 92 out of Roman Reigns and Mick Foley here with an angry Roman Reigns coming out. Will not be disrespected by Jeff Hardy, and he demands once again that Mick Foley not only deliver this hymn that we have been alluding to now since the very start of this save, but also deliver Jeff for what will be a tribal ass-kicking, according to Roman. And as you see here, Foley responds that he will not be able to deliver him tonight, as he's told Reigns before, but what he can do is make an announcement later on involving both Reigns and Jeff Hardy. So we will see what that is, but we will certainly take this as always. Anytime we can get the light blue with Roman Reigns, that is pretty much a guarantee at this point. So once again, these two didn't deliver their 100 that they gave us the King of the Ring, but we'll take the 92, and it does set up what will be a pretty, nice angle coming up hopefully later as well that will involve these two particular people. And that leads us to our first match, 52 here. One of these matches again where we just are building to a pay-per-view, and we have a pretty clear direction on where a lot of these people are going to go. But in this one, this was just something where you have Sami Zayn, Mustafa Ali, Jinder Mahal getting the win over Humberto Carrillo and Lucha House Party in 8:22 here. Ali's off his game, not what we want, but these are just guys that, again, if you look at our SmackDown heel side, like we got a lot of guys on the SmackDown heel side that are kind of over, like they're in that middle range, like they're not up in Reigns level or anything like that, but a lot of these guys are kind of in that range. On the face side, we have some of those guys, but some of those guys are not working right now. And in the case, one of those specifically that I'm talking about is Riddle, who, remember back at the beginning of our save, Riddle was considered toxic because of the fallout of his scandal. That was in the mod when we started the save. And so we haven't even used Riddle to this point, but he is on our SmackDown roster, and we just can't use him right now. So we are really, I think, lacking maybe face a little bit on the SmackDown side, but that's okay. We have still a lot of good stuff going on, but that is something I've noticed when it comes to trying to put together these matches on a weekly basis on SmackDown is we need to build up some faces, and we have a plan to do that. Actually, a couple plans to do that, but it's just a matter of timing. And so for now, we're just kind of going along with it and trying to do the best we can, but that will change pretty soon on SmackDown. So that's a little bit of a tease there. But a 52 here, these three get the win in a six-man tag. And we get a promo from Drew McIntyre, and Drew McIntyre in an undisclosed location. We have no idea where he is, but we do know that his ribs are taped up, and he's shaking and gritting his teeth. McIntyre, in a very soft, slow voice, has a message for Bray Wyatt, who put him through a table last week. Of course, Bray Wyatt made his return. He put Drew McIntyre through a table, and basically, McIntyre says after what Bray Wyatt did to him, next week he is going to take Bray Wyatt to hell. I have no idea what that means. Perhaps we'll find out from Drew McIntyre next week, but this is good here to get a 74 out of Drew, working well without the script. A nice performance here when it comes to what we're getting from him. So a nice job from Drew to give us a nice promo here that will kind of move us forward with the storyline that we have between these two. And I'm really excited about the direction we're going with this storyline. I hope it delivers. We have a pretty extensive plan for where we want it to go. So I think we're off to a good start with Drew McIntyre and Bray Wyatt. And then we get to the return of Sonya Deville, who, as we teased last week, has not been in our save at all to this point, but this is her first match, and it is a dominant performance. 707, it gets a 42, but we did add something here where we wanted this to be a dominant performance from Sonya Deville, which obviously will knock Mia Yim's popularity a little bit, but we wanted this to be domination from Sonya Deville, and I know it went 7 minutes, but it was 7 minutes of domination. That's what we were going with. So Sonya gives us a nice job here, and we get a couple of good things where you have Sonya still benefiting from the groundswell of public support. This is our first appearance, so we didn't know if we were going to get that, but we are. That's good to know. And then you've got Mia Yim also getting better at her gimmick, which she's changed away from that hideous retribution gimmick. So I think anyone could get better after having to partake in that. But this is good here. It's her first match, a dominant performance, and we have plans for Sonya Deville, and you will start to see where that's heading here in the near future. So Sonya Deville, her first match in our series, and she gets the dominant victory to do that. So then we get a promo here from Damian Priest. 56, not great, but we're trying to see how we can increase Damian Priest's overness. He is not happy. Last week he had the big match with Baron Corbin after those two had brawled a couple weeks before, and now he's going to take out his frustration tonight in the tag team match. We got a pretty significant tag team match here with Damian Priest teaming with Shinsuke Nakamura to take on Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin. Of course, Crews and Nakamura, they're going to square off at Great American Bash, Intercontinental Championship match there. So a nice little tag team match we're going to have coming up next. But Damian Priest, he says if he thought that the aggression that was on display last week, which remember led to a double DQ, a draw basically between Priest and Corbin, Priest saying just wait till this one. So we clearly are setting up for what could be a very aggressive match here coming up, and this does advance our storyline between these two. Although we remember, we did get no good chemistry. We got bad chemistry between Priest and Corbin. But like I said last week, we actually still have plans for them. So may not be over just yet. And speaking of the match, the 66 here, I think that's fine. I'm not at all disappointed with that. That's actually okay. I'll take that, given where, again, that's kind of the level where all of these guys are. So that's perfectly fine here. A 66 with these two. And once again, though, it is intentional disqualification, where it is Apollo Crews intentionally getting disqualified while fighting Damian Priest. We probably would have liked to add in the notes there, and I think I may have just forgot to do it. If you can do it, I don't remember. But we wanted Baron Corbin to be the one to get intentionally disqualified. So that builds off of the storyline here. Either way, actually, I think it's fine. But this is one where we once again get a DQ, Nakamura and Priest get the victory. But Damian Priest was, he's kind of getting tired of the disqualifications at this point with these opponents. And so I think that's something that will play into what we have in mind for this upcoming pay-per-view match, which I'll just go ahead and kind of tease it and spoil it now. But we are going to have another match between Priest and Corbin, even with the bad chemistry. But we will kind of get the direction on that on next week's episode of SmackDown. So 66, a nice match here. And it is, once again, the heels, their heel ways. Rather than taking the loss, they're just going to get intentionally disqualified. So we'll see if these two get their comeuppance soon enough. And we get a tell the tape here for Bianca Belair and Asuka. Speaking of Great American Bash, they will square off. The Women's Championship on the line as Belair defends it against Asuka. Belair has the gold, but will Asuka be the one that has the advantage? So this is a nice little hype video here with the tell the tape, all that good stuff going on between these two. A 73, great stuff. We will take that, and Bianca Belair still getting the benefit when it comes to being the flavor of the month. So good stuff here from these two as we build up to that big championship match at Great American Bash. And speaking of championships, we know Charlotte Flair has been on the prowl to get that championship, but she lost the number one contenders match to Asuka, and she is still not happy about it. But yet she takes out her frustrations on Dana Brooke here. This one goes 7-10, 57 overall. We're still getting the penalty for Charlotte being in extremely poor form. We've had that pretty much the whole series now. So that is something that we still have to work our way out of. But not ideal on that because really a lot of Charlotte stuff is not getting great ratings. So that is something that that's not why we went with Bianca versus Asuka, just as a note. That was kind of already in my plans in terms of booking. But this is something that continues to be a concern here as we see the rating get knocked a bit when it comes to Charlotte. So we'll see what we can do with that. But more on the way for Charlotte, as I'm sure you could probably tell, just based on how we booked this thus far. And a great segment here, 83. Man, this is great. From the New Day, they're always money on the mic. We know this, and we always give them the freedom to not have a script, and it usually always works. So 83, though, that might be their highest to date in our series based on the promos we've had here. Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, they saw the Usos, who made their appearance on Raw because they are Undisputed Tag Champions. They were on Raw talking about the Street Profits, the other tag teams on that brand. But Woods says they should be worried about what's in front of them. And New Day, are the biggest rival the Usos have. And after they beat the Viking Raiders in this number one contenders match coming up, they're going to take back what's theirs, and that is the WWE Tag Team titles. So this is a nice, really, this is what we wanted, just to build with this, continued tension between the New Day and, the Usos. And this has gone on now our entire series at this point. But this continues to build the tension, and we will see. Can the New Day be the ones to get that championship match against the Usos at the Great American Bash? And they're not, because it is the Viking Raiders getting the surprise win with the Ivar pinning Xavier Woods, the Viking experience, following the interference from Jey Uso. So, gets a 55. I didn't really expect a lot from this from a match rating standpoint because the Viking Raiders just aren't that over. Compared to the New Day, really. But this may help a little bit as they do get the win over the New Day. And even though we have a couple off their game here with these two, the tag team specialist bonus, that's what we always get when any of these teams, really these two specifically, and the Usos, of course, are together. But it will be now, as it's set up. It will be the Usos versus the Viking Raiders at the Great American Bash. And just as the Usos seem to be celebrating their accomplishments here of keeping the New Day out of the title match at Great American Bash, well, the Viking Raiders will have none of that because 62 here, the Usos celebrating about costing the New Day their title shot. However, Jimmy and Jay turn around to a pair of angry Viking Raiders who both deliver power slams to them. So we kind of tease it here. Could Eric and Ivar actually be the next tag team champions? So if the Usos thought by keeping the New Day out they were going to have a much lighter match against the Viking Raiders, that could not be the case. Because the Viking Raiders are angry. They want the gold. So that's going to set up, actually, the Usos and the Viking Raiders for the Undisputed Tag Team Championships at the Great American Bash. So a nice little, maybe a little different than what people expected. But I think that, again, we have a plan, and it's heading in the right direction for now. So Usos, Viking Raiders at Great American Bash. And speaking of, we go straight to Seth Rollins, who gets a victory here over Cedric Alexander. Really good match here, 73. The curb stomp does it. And Seth, as we know, last week, playing up that he was trying to figure out why no one would actually declare him the King of the Ring. He felt that he rightfully won the event, which he did not because he got eliminated in the semifinals. But somehow delusional Seth Rollins has decided to keep that going, and this just kind of gives him another victory over Cedric Alexander. Good match here between these two. But really, that's going to build into a great, just an excellent promo here from Seth Rollins. Good stuff across the board, 91 overall. Seth grabs the mic. He cannot figure out why he's not being referred to as the King of the Ring. He says that Daniel Bryan did not beat him in the semifinals. He did not. And next week, he is going to prove it. So what does Seth Rollins have in mind? We have no idea at this point. This guy has just been sort of just off his mind here the past couple weeks after King of the Ring. So maybe we finally figure out what Seth is talking about next week, because he seems to claim he has proof that Daniel Bryan did not beat him in the semifinals. So perhaps we'll find out what that means. But Seth is on a mission to prove that he did not lose to Daniel Bryan, and we'll see what comes of that next week. But that will lead us into the final segment of the evening, and this was not really as good as we thought it was going to be. A 68. Wow. This is not what we wanted from a rating standpoint. A little bit different, but I think probably the reason is, again, I think it's probably just that Jeff is not on the same level from an overness standpoint. When we look at some of the stuff here in this, I think, Foley gets penalized for the poor gimmick, Jeff penalized for the poor momentum, but really, I mean, everything else, overall is fine, but I think it just did not work out for some reason, and I think it's probably because of Jeff's overness. I want to say we had Reigns and Jeff both rated on overness, which Reigns we know is just very tip-top, but maybe Jeff's is just not kind of what we thought it would be. So 68 is very disappointing for this particular segment. But speaking of it, Foley calls out Reigns and Jeff. Foley has decided the main event for Great American Bash will be Roman Reigns defending the Universal Championship against Jeff Hardy. I think the match will do better actually than this segment, so I'm not that disappointed because I think the match is going to be good. But Reigns responds that he only wants him, and he specifically says it again. This mysterious him character, Reigns wants him, but since Foley did not learn the lesson at King of the Ring, which, as we know, involved Reigns just destroying R-Truth out of just frustration, he is going to have to send one more of the WWE veterans into retirement. So that is Reigns' message to Mick Foley, potentially losing another, top veteran babyface type of guy on the roster. That's what Reigns says he's going to do at Great American Bash. And like I said, this was, Reigns is the star, we know that, but disappointing from a rating standpoint. I think that's gonna knock our overall rating because we were expecting much bigger from this segment. But that sets it up. It's going to be Roman Reigns in what will, again, be his first match of our save, defending against Jeff Hardy at Great American Bash. And let's see what we got from an overall standpoint. Still gets a 77. So even with the disappointment, you have to remember we had some really good ratings and some of these other things. So it actually works out very well from that standpoint. We get a 77, another nice SmackDown here, gain more popularity, and so I'm good with that. The build to Great American Bash continues. We have a couple more SmackDowns to do it, but really a nice job here for this overall on SmackDown. So let's see if there's anything else we need to address before we wrap up. And in terms of news and such, there's not a ton here. If we go to our email, we've got a developmental contract ending. That is going to be in NXT UK. So we'll look at that. And then, of course, our drug test fees are what they are there. Our SmackDown viewing figures, 5.31. We'll have to go back and look at some of our ratings and compare them, which I've done some of the pre-booking on some of the shows, but not all of them. So that's that. And then we talked about Hammerstone on the last episode as a possible signee. He did sign an extension with MLW, but it is on a handshake deal. So we haven't really decided what we're going to do yet. We did mention his star quality may be something we want to add to NXT. We'll see, but we'll obviously discuss that in future videos if we go that route. So that is worth noting there, and then we'll look at that here. I'll mark that to check that out as well. On the contract front also, I did want to say that we did re-sign both Edge and Rhea Ripley. We mentioned that on previous episodes, so that is worth noting in terms of looking at those two. Those two are going to be back for us, and we weren't really concerned about that, but we did re-sign both of them, so that is worth noting. So Edge and Rhea Ripley under contract for 3 more years with us. Obviously, I would have probably did an entirely different video had they decided not to re-sign. But they're both re-signed, and there's really not a whole lot to note there other than that they are under contract. So if we look at everything else here at SmackDown Report, obviously we had a great show as we talked about. Nightmare Family having a change. Looks like Lee Johnson getting removed there. So that's something. Anything else really elsewhere? Not a whole lot. Other than that, Sami Callihan does have an extension with Impact. He's not someone that we've negotiated with or anything anyway, so not really of note there. One thing I will say, before I wrap up this video, you do see something there. We have a decision to make. That is going to be on a new signing. I don't want to tell you who that is just yet because that is going to play into a storyline. But we do have a new signing that has apparently agreed to sign with us. So it will. I'll let you know once we actually get to that part of the storyline. Hopefully everything holds up and no one gets injured or anything. We can actually work to the storyline that I want to. But we do have a new signing and just waiting right here. So there's a little tease heading into the next video. But there is SmackDown, and as always, be sure to subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. And I appreciate the feedback as usual. And as I talked about in a couple videos back, I am already starting to sort of work on the videos, like, you know, the booking and the spreadsheet, all that stuff that I'm going to start adding in to this series probably at the end of pay-per-view cycles. It's kind of what I'm thinking, is just to do them then when we do sort of the monthly overview stuff. So and then again, some of those will be separate videos. They may not all just filter into the end of month recap. They may just be separate videos on their own. So that is something to note there. And I'm also considering another series, and it's not going to take away from this one because it's not going to be TEW. It's going to be another game, but it will be more of just a casual type of thing that we do maybe in between some of these episodes here on this series. But don't worry, this is still the main one. We're having a lot of fun with this, and like I said, I've pretty much got storylines built out for months, so I want to get to those and see how those play out because we do have a lot of hot stuff going on right now in this save, and we want to get to all of it because, like I mentioned earlier, SummerSlam, a lot of big stuff in the works. Although Great American Bash, we have some good stuff also, but SummerSlam is going to be a big show because it's a dual-branded show, and we're really looking forward to that. And of course, we'll go from there. We'll have SummerSlam, Unforgiven will be a Raw show, No Mercy SmackDown, dual-branded. We got the Mae Young Classic, which we switched around for a storyline reason. So we really got a lot of plans in the works here over the next several months. So really excited about that. So if we do decide to start a new series with a different game, will not be TW, it will be more of a casual type of thing versus like we do on this one. So thanks again, as always, for watching. And yeah, be sure to subscribe and share all that good stuff. And on the next edition, it will be Monday Night Raw, as we've got some pretty big storylines going on there and some big matches also in the works for the next edition of Raw. So the next video will be WWE